This is Friday Evening's Undercard. On our wrestling show today, Hillbilly Jim wears a tuxedo, Honky Tonk Man wants to ban the DDT, and Don Muraco wears a horse blanket. Welcome everyone to this episode of Friday Evening's Undercard. I'm Gentleman John. I'm your host. Gotta go it solo today. Eric, he's a busy man. Couldn't make it this week to record, but he's going to be on for some stuff we got coming up in the upcoming days. I think it's going to be really cool. I think you're going to really like it, but he couldn't be here for this one. So I got to go solo, working on the April 27th, 1987 episode of Primetime Wrestling. So the episode starts off, you get the opening montage with Monsoon and Heenan. Bobby Heenan is not wearing his classy jacket for the second week in a row. He's just out there in a regular shirt. I'd really gotten used to seeing him in those jackets. That was really cool. It was really great trying to watch each week and see him in those jackets, like trying to see what he was going to wear. But this week, he's just back in the shirt and looking quite regular. All right, so first match on the card. You get Hillbilly Jim against Mr. Fuji in a tuxedo match. And this is from Madison Square Garden on December 26th, 1986. So as it's airing, this match is 4 months old. This is actually one of about 10 tuxedo matches that Hillbilly Jim and Mr. Fuji worked in 1986. It's really weird that they would do this because Mr. Fuji, I didn't actually look up his age, but he's deep into his 50s, might even be in his 60s by this point. So it's weird that they would have him work something like this with Jim. But he did. It actually works okay. You get a fun start to the match. Hillbilly Jim pulls his hat off and he stomps on that bowler hat that Fuji always wore. Jim's out in white. Fuji's out in black. Yeah, go figure. Jim's the heel, Fuji's the face. It doesn't take a lot to figure out the colors there. Or even Hillbilly Jim's the face and Fuji's the heel. In the end, the only thing I've got about this match is that it just went way too long. I didn't time it. It felt like it took forever. Hillbilly Jim wins. Obviously, you know that's going to happen. It just took way too long. Next match after Hillbilly Jim, because there's just nothing else I can say about Hillbilly Jim. Next match is Leilani Kai against the Fabulous Moolah. Taped MSG, same card, December 26, 1986. It is announced that it is for the WWF Women's Championship, and it is announced with a 1 hour time limit. Now, there's this weird dynamic that's going on here because they're arguing back and forth, both wrestlers with the ref for the entire match, and I just don't understand what was going on here. I don't understand what the point of that is or anything, so it's really weird. Moolah, I don't think I'd ever understood it until I started rewatching some of the stuff. You know, I just knew her as Moolah because I saw her from the Attitude Era and stuff like that. I never understood that her name was literally a reference to money. I knew Moolah meant money, but I didn't know that it was directly that with her. And so it was weird when I saw in this episode that she had the dollar signs on her boots, because I never really got to see much of Moolah's work because, she was pretty much out of wrestling by the time I really got into wrestling in, say 1990. So, that's how that went. I never understood that until, I started seeing it later. So one thing about this match, and this goes back to a comment that I had said during the WrestleMania 3 event where they were talking about Harley Race and Moolah being the same age. Okay, Harley Race and the Fabulous Moolah were not even close to the same age. I had to go back and look it up because I didn't realize quite how old Moolah was. Yeah, would be the right word because she is dead now. Moolah was born on July 22nd of 1923. So if you do that math, that means that in this match, Moolah was 63 years old. And if you see some of the bumps she's doing, that's pretty crazy. But it is absolutely amazing how long of a career she had. We think it's weird seeing now, the guys that are still still wrestling, 62, 65 years old or whatever. Apparently Bob Armstrong is finally having a retirement match down in Florida, and he's like 78 years old or something like that, but it's just crazy. And that's something that we're not used to anymore. We're used to guys getting out of the business when they're 50 years old. Anyway, the match, it was just kind of back and forth. Leilani Kai takes a body slam just straight onto the concrete, and it did not look like there was any mats out there. She just flat backed it right onto the concrete. Takes a huge bump from a chop. Kai did. I remember seeing that, and that looked really weird. And it's really, really strange. The ref was absolutely working as the heel in the match. He was like against everybody. Even Bobby Heenan is out there saying that it's not the ref's job to like physically break up these altercations, that all he does is count to 5 and then ring the bell if they don't break. Monsoon at one point said that the ref doesn't have a clue. And Moolah wins with a roll-up. And then Monsoon says somebody should be going in there and raising the referee's hand. It was a really bad ref job. It was pretty bad. The match itself was, it was okay. It was a good average match, probably above average compared to what you were used to with women's wrestling back then compared to now. Whereas now, we're sitting here looking, just today, as I'm recording this, it was announced that Ronda Rousey against Charlotte against Becky is going to be the main event. I say main event, and I'm holding up like air quotes as I'm saying that, because I don't know. Is it really going to be the main event? Like, is it going to legitimately be the last match that is on the card? Or are they doing the stupid bait and switch like they do a lot of times, where they'll say something's the main event, but then it goes like just buried in the middle of the card somewhere? They've had a bad habit of that at WrestleMania, advertising like 4 or 5 main events, and the truth is there's only one main event, and it's the last match of the night. And, I don't know. One of my comments online is that I won't honestly believe this is the main event. Like, I won't believe this is the last match on the show until I see the credits. Because I just, not saying that the women don't deserve it, because I think they do. I think it's going to be a really good match. I think it could have been better had they not, messed around with it for so long. But, yeah, I won't believe that WWE has legitimately given them the main event until I see the credits roll. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, just a quick break. If you want to follow us on social media, we can be found on Instagram at Friday Evenings Undercard, on Twitter at FUndercard, on Facebook by going to facebook.com/Friday Evenings Undercard, or you can reach us via email at fridayeveningsundercard@gmail.com. Please have a listen to our newest interview with Ohio Valley Wrestling star Dimes. If you like what you hear on the show, please subscribe and give us that 5-star review on iTunes. It'd mean a lot to us. Now let's get you right back to the action. But anyway, back to the episode at hand here. After the Moolah match, we get an update. It's Danny Davis. It's just whatever. It's a short segment. Then you get the Ken Patera segment where, the video package, and he's still just blaming Bobby Heenan for everything. And obviously, Heenan had so much heat during this time that all they had to do was put Ken Patera with him, and it just automatically meant that if he was going against Bobby Heenan, that he's just 100% face. And just like when Andre allied himself with Heenan, he was 100% heel. It was just instant. So you end up with some good little, quotes by Ken Patera. He said he's no longer going to be motivated by the false promises of Bobby Heenan. That could even tie into the Andre thing. Patera says that Bobby Heenan sold him down the river. That's a phrase you don't hear very much anymore, but, I have heard people say it. And then Ken Patera says he's going to set an example for all to see. Other than that, that's about it. There's not a heck of a lot to that segment. You know where it's going, but either way, it's not going to lead to some big, tremendous payoff, which is kind of sad because they could have done something with that. They could have dragged that out because there were so many people that Heenan was managing that they really could have dragged out that feud, but they really never did. All right, so the next match on the card after the Patera segment, you get the Honky Tonk Man against Tommy Sharp. And this is from a Superstars of Wrestling taping March 21st of 87, Thomas and Mack Center in Las Vegas. Again, obviously, Thomas and Mack Center to any modern wrestling fan is just going to be immediately associated with CM Punk. But anyway, look, Tommy Sharp is a jobber. He is a flat-out jobber. There's talk about banning the DDT, and obviously that's a reference to the Honky Tonk Man's upcoming match with Jake Roberts. I I think they were holding a sign that said ban the DDT. Yeah, I've got a note here. Jimmy Hart was holding a sign saying ban the DDT. That was the big part of the match. Honky Tonk wins really quick. That's one of the things. I can't imagine going to one of those old Superstars of Wrestling tapings where you sit there and you might see like 15 matches, but they're all jobber matches and they're all just going like 2 minutes. And maybe if you're lucky, you get like a tag team match with the Intercontinental Champion or something as a dark match. But man, I mean, that would just be something else. Okay, so really quick, I went and looked up the card for the TV taping from the Thomas and Mack Center. Folks, it had 19 matches on the card. And just a quick look down. I'm not going to read the whole card. Let's see. We got a match that went 5 minutes and 8 seconds, 4 minutes, 8 minutes, and that was a 6-man tag match with a bunch of people in it. Dark match, by the way. Hulk Hogan and Hercules Hernandez went 9 minutes. Spoiler alert, Hogan won. And then pretty much everything else just went a minute. Let's see, we got 2 minutes, 1 minute, 2 minutes. Yeah. And it's all just jobber matches. Yeah. I cannot imagine trying to sit there through that kind of stuff because these are just terrible matches. But anyway, is what it is. I mean, that's how they did it on TV back then after the Honky Tonk Man match. Man, I'm sad Eric doesn't get to be here for this one because it's his favorite segment of the week, man. It's the Don Muraco and Mr. Fuji segment. And this one is Fuji Vice. Oh, boy. Obviously patterned after Miami Vice. If you haven't seen Miami Vice because you're too young or something or you just didn't watch it, go watch the old one with Don Johnson from the 80s. Classic stuff. And you actually get a reference to Don Johnson here. He said Don Johnson talked to the studio and his agent and stuff and got him the gig. Oh my gosh, he has on a horrible fake mustache. Muraco does. I mean, it's just the worst. And his suit jacket also looks horrible. It's my gosh, it's got to be 3 or 4 sizes too big, which is hard because Don Muraco's a massive man. Yeah, just come on. It's a Fuji segment. I popped a little bit when they had the Coast Guard boat. If you know me, you know why. But other than that, man, that was it. There's not a whole lot to this segment. Next on the card, you get almost a 2-year-old match between George Steele and Tiger Chung Lee. They announced that this is one fall with a 20-minute time limit. Yeah, Boston Garden, August of 85. George Steele wins. I mean, there's not a whole lot to be said about it. George Steele was never a tremendously technical worker, but, he did what he did, and it kind of worked pretty cool. Next match, I don't really have anything to, go here. It was just, Moondog Spot and the Gladiator against the Islanders, and the Islanders won. It was a pretty quick match, not a heck of a lot to it. That's from the February 16th of 87 Superstars taping from New Haven, Connecticut. Okay, final match of the night. Again, another match that's a year and a half old. You get the Dynamite Kid against Bret Hart, and this is from the Capitol Center in Maryland. If you're actually familiar with D.C., the Capitol Center is actually where the big mall is now, where there's a train station there, and it's basically right across the interstate from FedEx Field. So you can tell right off that this is really, really old because Bret Hart is wearing the blue trunks. There are probably people who are reasonably avid wrestling fans who have no idea that Bret Hart ever wore blue trunks because he did. His debut for WWE, whatever you want to call it, he was wearing blue trunks, and he did that for a couple years. He actually worked WrestleMania 2 wearing the blue trunks when he worked the Battle Royal that Andre the Giant and the football players and everybody was in. I mean, this match basically goes the way you would expect it. Bret's complaining about hair pulling to start the match. Obviously, Bret has the long hair like he's always had. Dynamite, short hair. A weird thing that I saw here, actually, on the outside of the ring, the ringside seats actually have like tables, and they're sitting there like eating dinner. It's the weirdest looking thing. Bret does some standard heel stuff. He goes over and hides in the ropes to keep Dynamite from coming at him. Dynamite is slammed like flat back on the concrete. I'm sure that didn't help him Obviously he ended up being in a wheelchair later in life. He does a standing flying headbutt. That's the best way I can describe it. He's basically standing flat-footed. He jumps up like vertical and he delivers the headbutt. So rather than coming off the top or the second rope, he just like stands flat and jumps up and does it. Really cool looking move. Brett, I think it was Brett, hits the normal knee to the face off the second rope, that he does a lot. And Dynamite wins with a reverse sunset flip. I mean, that's about all I've got here. Obviously, this is just part of setting up a tag team program. So, the Anvil comes out, he beats up Dynamite, and then Davey Boy has to come out for the save. Good match. I mean, I'm probably not giving it what it was really worth, but, that's what you've got. And so that's where you go. All right, so overall, let's see what we've got here. There is no build for the Saturday night's main event that's coming up because, let's see, so this would have aired on Monday. So 5 days after this aired, you have a big Saturday night's main event that would have been on NBC, and those were major events back then. I mean, they drew huge ratings, and so I don't understand why it wouldn't be a part of the program to promote that. Now, maybe they had it as part of like local promos or something. I think I mentioned that last week, but either way, it seems really weird that there's not like a lot of talk about the Saturday night's main event. It doesn't make sense to me. The women's championship is defended on TV. That's a first. We have not seen the women's belt defended on TV yet. And obviously this is the time when Moolah still has it. There is a time Moolah will finally lose it. Actually, she may have lost it and then won it back by this point, but I don't remember the exact dates with that. I mean, obviously they say she held it for 30 some odd years. Yeah, when you're your own promoter, you can do that. Obviously, she wasn't going to book herself to lose, right? It builds up the Honky Tonk Man and Jake Roberts feud, which would have been a cool thing to see 4 weeks ago. Had you been able to watch that match live, it probably would have meant a lot more. But watching it 4 weeks after WrestleMania, you're kind of just wondering what's going on. They are still building Ken Patera, and that's going to lead to a little something, but it's not going to lead to what it possibly could have. And then we get more Don Muraco. I don't know why we're getting more Don Muraco. I have no idea where they're trying to go with this. Yeah, I don't know why they're putting it on the television because it just seems really weird. But overall, I mean, that's it for the show. Good show. Next week, the show will be really good because it's the Saturday night's main event. So that's going to be, pretty substantial. Really solid matches. You're going to get to see a lot of stars on TV, that sort of thing. So that's going to be really good. This is just sort of the last match or the last show before that. And it's a decent quality show. I don't know if they were in between TV tape-ins or something like that. And so they just sort of ran out of matches and they just threw a bunch of really old matches in there because there are a lot of matches from a long, long time before this program aired, which seems really weird. And it's crazy now. You would never see that now. Now it wouldn't even make sense if you watched a match from 2 years ago because the guy that was working face is probably now the heel, and the guy that's the heel, he's probably working for Ring of Honor or something. So you wouldn't have any idea what's going on now because they just have no concept of how to make feuds last as long as they did back in this time period. And so it's just really weird. But anyway, hey, that's the end of this episode. Appreciate you listening. Glad you made it this far. Talk to you again next week.